What's up, John? How are you today, my friend?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. We've been busy.
Nice.
It's been nice.
Nice. Man, thanks for having me on. And yeah, man, let's dive in.
Right on, man. Yeah, we appreciate you coming on. I mean, I know you're a busy man. It's time out of your day, and So where are you located, man? Are you in Texas or Oklahoma?
I'm in Texas. My license is still in Oklahoma. Has been since I was licensed in January of 05. So,
Nice.
or 25, excuse me, 05. What the heck? What year is it?
Yeah,
So
not 25.
Yeah, January of 05. I came on board, got into the real estate world in October of 04. And, it's been interesting, right? Like even for me coming into, walking in on a operational side of things for an already successful, company or team at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was a train wreck, but it was, I like to say it was like, a go fast motor on the back of a rowboat.
Right.
Is really what it was. And so, me coming in from an operational perspective and really laying the foundation, putting structure, systems, process, visibility, communication, things that really stabilize any type of fast moving ship, any type of fast moving business, and really, helping to navigate through the whitewater into where you've got some predictability and some sustained success. And, it helped us continue to grow, over 20% market share in our market. And we were number 2, right? So I think, going head to head with the behemoth every day that did about 100 more transactions than you did, even when you have 20% market share. And so it definitely, shaped us to who we are. But I wouldn't even be on this call with you today if it wasn't for, that market and those market conditions and the things that we had to, to battle every day.
Yeah. I've been in the business 7 years, almost 8 years. And, I've watched the market change and evolve and shift and change and evolve and shift and change and over, like little micro, movements and things that you have to adapt to, and I've kind of been workshopping this whole, like, you've got to learn to overcome and adapt, right? To every little thing that happens. I mean, if you stress out every time the real estate market changes, you're going to give yourself a heart attack from it, because unless you learn to overcome and adapt to change, it's, that's all this industry is learning, overcoming the obstacle.
Yeah. And being able to work through it. I think the biggest thing though is having a framework of how to think and think more accurately. And really that mental model, and more of an accurate thought, and having a framework of how to work through those constraints.
Yeah.
What we have to understand, no matter what you're talking about, the only thing that is constant is change, right? We know everything's going to constantly be changing and evolving, and market conditions, market dynamics, and, political climates, just everything, right? Everything's going to, have a variable and have an impact on really what's going on, but it's still all foundational, right? It's traffic, it's conversion, and then it's fulfillment. There's really business is 3 things: traffic, conversion, fulfillment. And, it's constantly looking where the opportunity is, who is a real opportunity in today's market? Who's that ideal buyer? What result do they want? Because in business, we're just in the results business. That's all we're trying to do. That's all people pay for. People pay for results. They either want their home sold, or they want to get into a home, or an agent wants to be able to get into a location to where they can, in an environment that they could sell homes, make a living, get a paycheck. And so, that's what we're in. We're in the results business. So we got to find where the traffic and the opportunity is. There's always an opportunity. And I think, right now in today's market, it's more of the have tos than the want tos. And so, it's the 4 Ds, right? There's always going to be death. There's always going to be diamonds. There's always going to be divorce, and there's always going to be diapers. So, you're looking for the have tos, and what triggers a move, either, up, out, downsize. There's always something right there from pick. And then, the next part is conversion, being able to convert those opportunities and agreeing to do business with you. It doesn't matter who they are, what they are. You've got to be able to articulate your value and do they believe that you have a bridge or a process or a path to help them get the results that they want, right? That's really all conversion is finding out what their pain point is, what their problem, what results they want. And hey, here's my solution. Yeah. And do they believe that you have that solution to be able to help them, achieve what they want? And then it's just fulfilling on that promise.
Right.
And, really, I think the big thing is understanding that, but then looking at, okay, well, what here is within my control? And that's where I've got to focus my energy and my effort around. And it's really around the thing. And that's what we, talk about all the time, right? Control the controllables. Is this within my control? But that also goes back to a framework of being able to how to think and think accurately. It's like, is that within my control? Can I control that?
Right.
If not, then I can't give any energy to it. And I've got to reallocate my energy and my focus to the things within my control.
Well, I think discipline too comes into play right there, because in order to figure out what you can control, that's great. But if you don't have the discipline to make the phone calls, pick up the phone, reach out to people, talk to people, right? Like if I see agents all the time, they're willing to go host the open house, right? And they've got the cookies out, they've got the tiny little water bottles, and people come through and they're just sitting over in the corner. They're, not talking to people as they're coming through the door. They're not, giving people a call to action to fill out a guest registry. They're not harvesting people's information as they come through the open house, which is the whole reason you're doing the open house, right? Yeah. Is to maybe meet some folks and figure out exactly who's gonna play ball with you, because those people are walking through an open house for a reason,
right?
They're not just walking through an open house because it's open. Maybe a fraction of them will, but all of them have the thought in mind, I just walked into an open house to look at a house because I'm interested. And that, like your alarms should be going off in an open house. Like you should know each and every one of these people by the time that you're done, and then have the discipline to follow up with them and call them. I get it. It's, making a phone call can be daunting, right? Because you're not used to it, or if you're a brand new agent or something, you're coming from a different career field and absolutely nothing that you have to do to find any kind of success was on the test. And so you're kind of like running blind when you first start. And then somebody says, well, you got to make 30 phone calls a day at least. And it's like, what? Well, who do I call? Well, those kind folks that you've been signing up in your guest registry is a great place to start, right? And start calling, texting, emailing them. It's called marketing. And you have to teach them to know, like, and trust you. It's not the other way around, and I think once you have that point of view in mind that, like, okay, this isn't that hard. This is pretty simple, right? We prospect for leads, then we call the people, and we have conversations. Yeah, at first you're going to be bad at it because you don't know what to say.
Right.
Okay. Get kicked in the teeth a few times. It's not going to kill you, right? To have somebody, send you an objection that you can't handle because you've never heard it before. And then you think about it. Okay, well, how do I handle that objection? I call Matt, or I reach out to John, or, somebody else that has been down this road hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, that knows what to say, that knows what to do, and ask them, how do I do this? We will tell you, right? Yeah. Like, it's not hard, but you have to have the discipline to begin with this industry. If you're not disciplined enough to sit down for 2-3 hours a day minimum to make your phone calls, it's going to be tough.
Too, Matt, it's a, obviously discipline is doing the required activities, even when you don't feel like it, right?
Right.
And it's trying to stay as consistent as possible, finding that 20-mile march. But it all starts with, what is the goal?
Yeah.
And I think that's where, you start hearing, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Well, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, those are required activities. No matter what
Right.
you do, you got to create awareness. You got to create engagement. You got to get people excited. You got to get them to want to subscribe, basically giving you their phone number so you can reach out to them, because there's a value exchange. And then, you get them, start being able to work with them. But it all starts with, what is the goal? And for real estate and for business in general, it's always a revenue goal. They're like, well, I'm not in it for the money. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Then
the only reason.
Yeah, that is the only reason you're in business is to make a profit. However, you design, and this is the beautiful thing with real estate, is that, especially, kind of what we do with residential sales, is that there's so many ways to get to that outcome, to that objective, whatever it is. But you have to start with the end in mind. And you have to understand that this is a creative world, and you design this business as your vehicle to move you to your freedom. And I think that's where you have to get real clear on, is what is freedom? And freedom is really building something to where you're not trading time for dollars.
Yeah.
And for so many people, it's what we call, we're dancing bears. Basically, if we stop dancing, we don't get paid. But I promise you, I've been, like I said, licensed, 05, been in the game, and then, been on the coaching side for over 12 years. I have not met one real estate agent that says that they want to go to their grave showing properties.
Right.
And so at some point, now, do people want to keep dancing because they want to? Yeah, not because they have to.
Right.
And being able to get to that. So what is that, right? What is freedom? What is that number? What is that perfect day for you? What are you working towards? What is that direction? Because, if we're not moving in a known direction, then what the heck are we doing? Right. Yeah. So it's like finding and moving in that known direction. What it does is it gives us filters to say yes, and more importantly, what to say no to, because that's the number one productivity tool, is the word no. And no is a complete sentence, but you've got to know what you're moving towards, or you're going to say yes to so many things, which is another concept. Say yes until you have to say no. Right. But most of the time you say yes to things that you should be saying no to. So, but it has to start with the end in mind. What is the goal? What is the dollar amount? And so it's like, hey, I want to make six figures. Great. Well, then do you know what your average sales price is? Do you know what your average commission? Do you know, after broker fees, splits, if you're on a team, do you know how much you get to take home at the end of the day? Right. Well, how many of those do you need to hit your revenue goal? And then you just start working down the path, right? And you create that conveyor belt of, okay, well, I need X number of closings. Great. Well, how many clients do I need? How many listings? How many buyer reps do I need? Right. And then, okay, well, if I need that many, well, how many people do I need to meet with to articulate my value? Right. Okay. Well, then how many appointments do I need to set to meet with those people? Conversations do I need to have? How much engagement? How many leads, traffic opportunities do I need for that to be true? Right. And as we're going through this conveyor belt, as you notice, we get down to traffic, we get down to engagement, we get to things within our control, right? Really, it stops within our control at appointment set, right? Because appointment kept, yes, value articulation, something could happen. Their life could change just like that overnight. Now we're not meeting with them, right? So we start to lose a lot of control later on down the path. So that's why we always say, control the controllables. What am I doing today, executing today within my control that's moving me closer to my goal? Right. And then they're like, well, when you go down that, just even based on market averages, market consumptions, doing 2 deals a month is if you do that and you, to your word, stay disciplined, you're working part-time. That's what people like. I don't like, I don't think people understand. I had a very good friend, longtime client, Kevin Shoemaker, on our Expert Mentors series last week. And Kevin is when you look at Alex Hormozi's core 4 with his 4 leads out of $100 million leads, there's the cold outreach. Well, Kevin has done a great job at cold outreach to data, and he knows, right? Let's go to our metrics, know our numbers. He knows that in a 90-minute call session with a multi-line dialer, he can get through 300 dials, which he's got really good data. He's going to have 15 to 20 conversations, which verifies it's the actual contact data. He's going to set one appointment.
Yeah.
Well, he knows that he needs to set X number of appointments will equal X number of deals. His average sales price, $500,000-$600,000. 90 minutes, 90 minutes of effort, focused, controlled effort will equal one appointment and one nurture. And we know from all of our studies that, you have 100 nurtures, you got 10 closings, right? So 10% turnover minimum, could be higher, depends upon your market. But this is what I'm saying. Like 90 minutes of doing something within your control, and you set one appointment. Let's say you need to set 3 appointments to get one closing. That's 3 90-minute call sessions for one closing. And when you break it down, it's so digestible. Then the question becomes, why don't people do it? Why don't people execute and do it? And I think it comes down, I know it comes down to your word. It comes down to discipline. They're just not disciplined.
Right. The second that, and Steve McCarthy. He's my sponsor, but he's my best friend at this point, right?
He's amazing.
He's awesome. I always tell people he's like a cartoon character, I remember when he first brought me on, he opened up his calendar and his phone. He was like, "This is my goal for you," is what he told me. And I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. I was like, You want to put me in your phone? We already scheduled something. We're here, And he's like, "No, I want you to live by the calendar. That's what I want from you. That's my goal for you." I said, "Okay." And I started doing it. And I asked him how, and he's like, "Well, you and Janelle, your husband and wife team, you're going to have to each have a calendar in your phone that's linked." So we got the Google Calendar that is free for everybody, and we linked them up, and every single minute of my day is scheduled out in that calendar. And everybody's so worried. I heard one guy say that he didn't want the calendar to dictate his day. I'm like, "Sell more homes than you, though." So obviously it works. I get the notification and it changes my mindset over to, and my focus over to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Right. And I love setting it up the night before, because, you set up everything, if you have something 3 months out, right? I have this in there, obviously. And then you set up your day the night before. Tomorrow, what do we need to do? What time am I having lunch? I schedule it all, and the second I started doing that, I noticed a huge difference in the amount of homes that I was selling, the amount of people that I was talking to, and the fact that I couldn't use any more excuses, right? Because the phone calendar doesn't listen to you, and you can tell it all day long. You can give this thing all kinds of excuses, right? And it's still just going to hit that same notification that it's programmed to hit.
Yeah. It allows for controlled chaos. It puts you in control, right? It's Jim Rome. You're either, you either run the day or the day runs you. And when you're not intentional and not proactive and you're very reactive, it really comes down, right? It's 168. There's 168 hours every week that we all have to execute the best life that we want to live.
Right.
And when you really break it down and understand what the ideal week really looks like, and you're wondering, how some people are able to achieve so much more than others, it's because they live and die by the calendar. And one of the things that I've learned, time and time again, and if it does not make the calendar, it does not happen. We have the best of intentions.
Mm-hmm.
However, if we don't allocate the time with the amount of detail required, then we're going to miss out on really being as efficient as we possibly can.
Right.
And so even that example, like with Kev, you know, when it goes into that calendar time block within the calendar, what I would want to see, I would want to know what data set he's calling, right?
Mm-hmm.
What line he's calling from, like
Right.
that detailed. And maybe there's a ramp up time, 15, 20 minutes before that 90-minute call session. And then there's an unwind time after it. But all of those things get put in. The biggest thing that I've seen with agents is that they try to be too strict and too rigid with it. And understand, this is why we really look at getting real clear every week, because every week is different. Right. Every week is different, right? So like some kiddos were on spring break last week. Some kiddos are on spring break this week. Some kiddos were on spring break the week after that. But those weeks are all different. Sometimes there's training. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes, we've got closing. Sometimes we don't. Mm-hmm. But we need to be able to allocate what we need to allocate into the calendar that we need enough of in order for us to be able to execute and achieve what we want to achieve. But there is a rhyme and a right order of things that go in, right? Right things, right order. And that's where a lot of people get mixed up. So just a 168 example, you back out sleep, maintenance, taking care of ourselves, that leaves, let's just say it leaves 100 hours. Yeah. Well, if you go 50 hours to work and 50 hours on work and on your craft, 50 hours on the other equities of your life, which are going to be health and relationships. Right. Then you start to look at, okay, well, what goes in first, right? First things that go in first are those high lifetime value activities. That's the health activities. That's the relationship activities. All of those go in first. And the mistake that especially real estate agents make is that they put, especially the ones that are like drivers that are really ambitious and want to, they're so focused on their business. Yeah. They put the business activities in first. And that's the wrong order. Yeah. The right order is those high lifetime value activities. Then the second thing that goes in are the things that within your control that's going to move your business forward. Third is all of the other business related activities. And the math equation is 70% of your working time needs to be on those high leveraged activities, which is going to be focus on traffic, which is going to be lead gen. It's going to be lead conversion. It's going to be face-to-face, articulating your value, converting those opportunities, negotiating deals. And if you're working with buyers, you're showing properties. There's only 5 things in real estate that matter. And out of your working time, the rule of thumb is 70% of your working time on those 5 things. Now, if you have a team, obviously leadership becomes your number one responsibility. Yeah. And then production is going to be listing. It's going to be face-to-face with motivated buyers, sellers, other agents wanting to join your organization. Right. And then content, creating more traffic. That's so you look at those activities, but it's 70%. So if you're working 50 hours this week, when I look at your calendar, I better see 35 hours allocated to those activities. Yeah. If so, Matt, I know 90 days from now what your bank account's going to look like. Just based off of what your market averages are and what your market per deal is, I can tell you if you stay disciplined to that activity of structuring your week and allocating your day and hitting the things within your control, your bank account is going to be flush. And that's where, people get so fixated. The bank account is just a lagging indicator. It's just a result of what you did 90, 100, 120 days ago. So the question is, here we are, mid-March. And if your bank account's running on fumes, the question you have to ask yourself is, what was I doing in December? Yeah. Because that, that version of you and the decisions you made back then is what you get to deal with today. Yeah. And it's not an indicator of who you are, right? Because we can make a change just like that. Right. But what you're dealing with is the ripple effect of the decisions you made 90, 100, 120 days ago. Right. No, it's like a deferred investment of time industry, right? Like we had a slow patch, right? When the shift happened this last time. And it was 100% because I wasn't following up with my database when it was 2021 and everything was through the roof and we were just slammed with deals and flush. And then all of a sudden, it seemed like all of a sudden, someone turned the water faucet off. And you're completely right. It had everything to do with what I wasn't doing
3 months prior to that happening that caused that slowdown in my business. And it was tough. It was a hard lesson to learn, right?
Right.
Didn't feel good. Felt like someone punched me in the gut. But, you know, like at the end of the day, it was like back to looking in the mirror time, right? Like, whose fault is it? And, you know, taking a hard look in the mirror and saying, Matt, you need to change. You need to do something. Like, you got a little comfortable for a second and forgot that you were told to stay uncomfortable. And, you know, so, you know, at that time I wasn't really as disciplined as I should have been. Right. And I wasn't, you know, watching every number that I had on my whiteboard, and I wasn't looking at my business physically. I was just kind of like, wow, this is easy. People are calling me, so why should I have to call them?
Right.
And as a result, we hit a rough patch, and it sucked, you know,
Yeah.
and it wasn't fun. And meanwhile, you know, I'm sitting there thinking, man, you're telling other people they need to hop on the phone. What's your deal, Matt? Come on,
Yeah.
Moreno, get on the phone.
Yeah.
And so ever since then, you know, it's like, it's no problem.
No, because you have that experience to draw off of, right?
Yeah.
And you know, that's just part of growth. And you know, we all fall off a little bit. We get, you know, either bored, or most of the time it's bored, right? You know, just kind of the repetitiveness. And you know, we're creatures for, you know, change and uncertainty. But it's the mundane. It's the just trust and love the process. And really, that's it. Remember, it's traffic, it's conversion, fulfillment. And a lot of agents, where they get on the roller coasters, they do a good job, right? They build it, and then they got to pedal, and they think that they've got to do all of the heavy lifting to get it across the finish line. But they stop doing what you just said, right? They stop working on traffic and conversion. Yeah. And those things all have to be constant. They have to stay constant. And so that's just really, you know, the dynamics of it. And man, it's messy. It's you know, frustrating. It's overwhelming. But that's what it's supposed to feel like, right? Yeah. That's and to me, that's you know, that's because we're taking steps forward. The only time that, you know, it's easy or nothing's happening is when we're doing nothing. But if we're really pressing and we're doing the things that we need to do daily within our control, it is. I mean, that's just what it's supposed to feel like. It's not easy. And that's why most people don't continue to push through and do those things. And, you know, those that are willing to fall in love with that process, trust the process, love the mundane, those are the ones that stay constant, the ones that see growth, the ones that, you know, continue to, you know, keep pushing through all of the obstacles, all the challenges.
Right. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you coming on today. I just looked at, we've been on for almost 30 minutes. I don't want to take up your whole day. Will you stick around for me for a second?
You got it, man.
All right. Thanks, bro.
Awesome.